Australia's most infamous outlaw didn't just rob banks, he tried to start a rebellion, and he nearly pulled it off wearing 90 pounds of iron. This isn't fiction. This is the story of Ned Kelly.
He's been called a murderer, a freedom fighter, a cop killer, a national icon, and depending on who you ask, Australia's own Robin Hood.
But who was Edward Ned Kelly really? A fearless avenger of the poor? Or just a very angry man in scrap metal cosplay?
Welcome back to The Curious Past. I'm Shan.
Oh, and I'm Danny. Today we're diving into the life, legend, and legacy of the most iconic outlaw in Australian history. And by the end, we'll try to answer the question, was Ned Kelly a hero or just history's most stylish criminal?
Grab a cold one, mates. This one's a wild ride.
Ned Kelly was born in December 1854 in Victoria, back when Australia was still a rough British colony full of sheep, gold, and disgruntled Irish convicts. Ned's father, John Red Kelly, was one such man, shipped from Ireland to Tasmania for stealing pigs. Classy start.
Red tried to go straight, but the colony and alcoholism didn't make life easy for Irish ex-cons. After a stint in jail for stealing an animal hide, he died when Ned was just 12, leaving the boy as the man of the house for a brood of 8. And that house? Well, let's just say it wasn't a palace. More like a shack surrounded by poverty, resentment, and police suspicion.
Young Ned grew up scrappy. The Kellys were selectors, small-time farmers, constantly feeling the squeeze from the wealthy squattocracy and, as they saw it, the heavy hand of the Victorian police.
Imagine feeling like the system's rigged against you from day one. Sets a certain tone, doesn't it?
Ned's teenage years were eventful. He had several brushes with the law for various offenses and eventually got chummy with a bushranger and seasoned outlaw named Harry Power, a mentorship that probably didn't involve a lot of polite tea parties.
Instead, this relationship landed him behind bars for receiving a stolen horse. A 3-year stint that left him older, angrier, and a little more polished in the ways of rebellion.
Now, whether he actually stole it is a bit murky, but let's just say young Ned wasn't exactly on track for sainthood.
After his release, he fell in with the Greta Mob, a rough crew of local lads known for their moonlight livestock acquisitions. In short, they were cattle thieves. To their neighbors, they were just poor kids trying to survive. To the police, they were a growing problem.
That's when things really went off the rails.
In 1878, the powder keg finally blew. A policeman turned up at the Kelly homestead to arrest Ned's brother Dan for horse theft. Now, accounts vary, as they often do, and the law and the less law-abiding have a disagreement.
But the upshot was a scuffle where the policeman ended up with a bullet wound, and Ned ended up being indicted for attempted murder.
Fearing the long arm of the law, Ned and Dan legged it into the bush, but their mother was arrested for her alleged role in the incident.
For Ned, this was the last straw. He swore revenge. Suddenly, petty cattle rustling wasn't the game anymore. This was personal.
From here on out, things escalate fast, real fast.
That same year came the Stringing Bar Creek incident. The Kelly gang, Ned, Dan, Joe Byrne, and Steve Hart ambushed and killed 3 policemen.
In today's world, that's a Netflix docuseries. In colonial Australia, that was a declaration of war. Ned and his gang became official outlaws. The government slapped a hefty bounty on their heads.
Now, Ned claimed it was self-defense, that the cops were coming for them guns blazing. The lone surviving policeman had a slightly different story. This event solidified their outlaw status, and suddenly they were public enemy number one.
The government gave the green light for citizens to capture the gang, shoot them on sight if the need arose, and receive a bonus of £6,000 as a reward.
Needing funds, and because Outlaw isn't a very lucrative career path, the Kelly gang embarked on a series of audacious bank robberies. In 1878 and 1879, Irawa and Jerry became their stage.
For 18 months, the Kelly gang robbed banks, took hostages, chopped down telegraph poles, and even destroyed railway lines.
They locked up townsfolk, dressed as cops, and made off with a fair bit of loot. But here's where the Robin Hood whispers start. Some hostages claimed the gang was courteous, even charming.
They gave out drinks, they even burnt mortgage documents, Ned declaring he was striking back at the bloody banks, crushing the life's blood out of the poor. See the narrative forming? Stealing from the rich, well, the banks anyway.
Ned claimed all these acts were self-defense. He wasn't just a gun-toting bandit, he was a writer of sorts. At Jerilderie, he dictated a fiery 8,000-word manifesto, the Jerilderie Letter.
In it, he tore into the British Empire, police corruption, and the squattocracy, the rich landowners who oppressed poor Irish settlers like his family had been.
He even invoked Irish rebellion against the English. Powerful stuff, even if his grammar wasn't exactly winning any literary awards. Some saw it as a proto-republican manifesto, a call for a fairer go. Others, well, they just saw a rambling justification for a life of crime.
He promised justice, vengeance, and retribution for the working man.
The grand finale, the stuff of legend, was Glenrowan.
In June 1880, the gang attempted their most ambitious plan. The gang, now sporting homemade bulletproof armor fashioned from stolen plow mold boards, planned to derail a police train and then wreak havoc in the town of Benalla.
Bold? Absolutely insane? Probably bold. The plan predictably went sideways. A school teacher playing the unlikely hero tipped off the police.
What followed was a chaotic siege at the Glenrowan Inn. Hostages, gunfire, and then Ned, emerging from the bush in his 44-kilo clunky armor, looking like a metal scarecrow on a rampage.
Eyewitnesses described him as a ghost, a bunyip, even the devil. Bullets bounced off him. It was surreal, almost comical, if it wasn't so deadly.
But eventually, the armor had its weaknesses. Ned still got shot in the legs and arms a lot, and instead of inspiring a rebellion, it ended in bullets, fire, and the deaths of Dan, Joe, and Steve. Ned, wounded but defiant, was finally captured and sentenced to hang.
The trial was a formality. Despite public outcry, petitions, and a fandom that would make TikTok jealous, the law had the last word. Ned Kelly was executed on November 11, 1880, at the age of 25 years old.
Found guilty of murder, he was hanged in Melbourne jail in 1880. His last words? Depending on who you believe, it was either the stoic "such is life" or the slightly more resigned "ah well, I suppose it has come to this." Either way, it was the end of the line for the Bushranger.
So, was Ned Kelly the Australian Robin Hood? He certainly stole, mostly from banks, and he voiced the grievances of the poor and downtrodden. But he killed police, risked innocent lives, and terrorized towns.
His 56-page manifesto blamed the system, but his story is soaked in both rebellion and blood. One thing's for sure, he didn't go quietly, and neither did his story.
Ned Kelly is whatever Australia needs him to be. A hero, a villain, or just a fed-up man, giving the finger to authority.
Nevertheless, Ned Kelly became a cultural icon, inspiring countless books, films, and songs. He tapped into that Aussie spirit of defiance, of sticking it to the man.
He's a symbol of a rebellious past. a reminder of the tensions between the powerful and the marginalized.
But a hero? A villain? Maybe he was just a product of his harsh environment, a flawed figure who became a legend.
What do you think? Was Ned Kelly a bushranger Robin Hood or just a desperate outlaw in a homemade suit? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below.
Thanks for watching The Curious Past. If you enjoyed this dive into bulletproof legends and mythic outlaws, hit that like button, subscribe for more historical strangeness, and remember, history isn't always written by the victors. Sometimes it's scrawled on burning mortgage papers by angry Irishmen in stolen armor.
Until next time, stay curious.